What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Future Endeavours podcast. Today, I'm joined by Miles and Keanu. How are we all doing?
Fantastic.
It's a good day, man. There's a
It's,
lot of news going on, man. A lot of stuff going on. We've been gone for a while, but we're back now, man. We got some stuff to talk about.
you're right, we're back. And you know what? You talked about news, and we're back with a bang because Triple H on Monday Night Raw revealed a new title that is going to be awarded to the brand that Roman Reigns is not drafted to either on Friday or Monday. And I want to get your views on it straight away first. Miles, what's your opinion on Triple H announcing a new world title?
Yeah, man, excited for that. Like, there were rumblings about it, and we were kind of waiting for it to become a reality if it was going to become. And it's funny, like, wrestling isn't like football. Like, when you get some leaks, you get leaks from like the people in the place, if that makes sense. Wrestlers, whatever, whatever. So anything you kind of hear, you know, it's kind of going to come to fruition. It was only a matter of time with these belts. And obviously, we heard some weeks ago that Triple H had approved the design for a new belt, and that design is a piece of crap on reflection.
Ooh,
On reflection. At first I said it was all right, but it's not. It's dead.
ooh,
But I'll let
ooh.
I'll let Keanu have it say. I don't know.
Keanu, go ahead with that.
I guess okay. Start with the new belt itself. There's nothing wrong with new belts. I think anything. There's never a bad time to bring new belts if you have the actual right. If they're given the right amount of attention. Obviously, this is going to be the main big belt for either Raw or SmackDown. So it's a good thing. I think Raw was suffering. I think realistically it will be the main. I feel like it'll be for Raw because you know how TV brand deals work. Like they want Roman over there on SmackDown. It is what it is. Like you know what I mean. I think whoever wins the belt obviously it'll be quite a big thing. But I think Raw ultimately was suffering. Um, yeah, Raw was suffering with the fact that Roman never showed up, and ultimately it was just a thing of where he's only ever defended the title against people who were on SmackDown. So it's like, what we doing over here? So I think it's a good thing now that there's a main belt. Obviously, there were some things we talked about just before we hit record that I'm sure you're gonna say, Abs, but I mean. And I agree with you, Miles. I like it's the big gold, but they put a WWE logo on it. I know for the longest time, these lot were wondering where can we fit this. I want to
Big
bring the big.
WWE.
I know Triple H was like, listen, I want to bring the big gold back. I know that's how he was thinking, and I know in his mind he was also just like, where are we going to put this WWE logo to make it not the big gold anymore, but keep it big gold? But I feel like no matter where they put it, it was going to be wrong. So yeah, I was like Miles. I think initially I'm like, yeah, okay, it's cool, it's all right, but I think having looked at it a bit more, it's still a bit like, eh. But I think it will grow. It will grow on me eventually. They always
I,
do.
I was going to say, I've not had the second look at it. I looked at the initial bit. I was like, do you know what? I don't mind it. But I think Keanu said something that we were talking about before. And I guess I got to go back to you, Miles, on this because I'll say my point first. This is the biggest consolation belt I've ever seen in my entire life when it comes to the WWE. The fact that Triple H basically set it up to say, look, nobody can beat Roman Reigns. He's basically coming to 1,000 days champion, and we need someone else to be champion, but we need someone to defend it every single day, week in, week out, type of thing. And do you think it is basically a consolation belt?
Yeah, it's kind of looking that way, isn't it? I think the only time it doesn't become a consolation belt anymore, and you can blur the lines, is when Roman Reigns drops the belt. And so their presentation of that belt once Roman drops it will let us know if it really is the consolation prize. Because any new belt compared to Roman Reigns is a consolation belt. If Raw had its belt and he just had the SmackDown belt, the Raw would be the consolation prize because of the story they've been telling with Roman. So interesting to see you know what how that belt looks after Roman drops his belts. But 100% it is. And if the belt goes to Cody, first and foremost, I'll be like, well, there you go. You got what you want. The rubbish guy who came back and you all wanted to be
Hey,
champion is now champion. Give him the consolation belt with the big gold with the weird ass W in the middle of it. There you go. Have it. Consolation.
do you know what?
Congratulations.
Let's stick on to that then. Keanu, Maz has kind of said not necessarily who's the first guy to win it, but what could potentially be looked at if Cody won the belt. There's the draft that's coming up, and this seems to be like Triple H mentioned, an exclusive belt for the brand that Roman's not on. But who should be the first guy to actually hold this particular belt?
Or just to respond to what Miles said, I agree with him. Like, no matter who, I think if you, I mean, obviously it's tough because it's like if you give it to anybody who was in the reign in which Roman beat them, it's like, okay, well, and if you go back to watch match and it's like, okay, they had a genuine chance to actually win the belt. Obviously, most recently it was Cody. It's like you've just handed it to him. I mean, don't get me wrong, WWE has done this before. Like, we're not forgetting, like, they at some point Triple H just got handed the title himself. So these type of things happen, but I don't think I don't think Cody would be the right choice for the belt. Obviously, we'll get into who our choices for who we think is, but I don't think he's the right person to have the belt on for the first, or he's not who I would want to have the belt first.
So who would you like to have first?
Okay, so bear with me. This is personal, but this is personal bias. But for me, the person I think well, I know me and Miles we spoke about this small. There's one guy that we both don't want it to be the first guy. I'll say who he is. The first person we do not want it to be at this current moment in time is Seth. I don't want it to be
Okay.
Seth. But the person I do want it to be is Finn.
Yo, I'm down. I'm
I want
down
it to
for
be
that. I'm
Finn.
down.
But why? First of all, why not?
Because
Seth?
we've been here. Because I think obviously storyline wise, I hear it. It makes sense. In theory, the only person that Roman didn't technically beat during his reign is Seth. But I think the version of Seth that we have now is fun. But I think in terms of what Seth is capable of, I mean, and maybe if they put the belt on him, that's where they make the change. Where it's like, okay, you've got the belt now. And then if they was to make the change to be like, okay, you are that guy, like we're doing remontada, like blonde streak Seth, like the guy who's gonna fight every week, fight everybody and anybody, and he's just gonna put on bangers every single week. If it's that guy, then it's fine. But if it's just how he is now, it's like, okay, cool, he's like a face, but he's a heel sometimes. We don't really know what he is. But obviously we always know Seth's gonna be able to go in the ring, but I think just the current presentation of him, I wouldn't want to see that with the belt as of right now. Now going to Finn, we've been here with Finn for the longest time now. Obviously, Finn was the first person to have the main belt, or in this new era of Raw anyway, he was the first person to have the Universal Championship when it came about. Obviously, his run got cut short because he got injured, and from that moment, his whole like push or anything in regarding to Finn has been kind of just falling on its face. And as somebody who's just been a fan of him from when he was in Japan and when he was in NXT, both of those times he's been at the top of the company, and he's every time he's been there, he's produced and given valid reasons as to why he should be there. From the moment he got injured, he's never had that opportunity to come back. Obviously, they gave him that moment, but then they just never be like, okay, here's your second chance now, because that's just how WWE is sometimes. Obviously, the stuff with the Judgment Day is cool, but for me, Finn is just so much more. I'm always gonna say he's so much more than the Judgment Day, even though it's a great faction that he's leading. But I just want to see him now, even if it's within Judgment Day or not. I want to see him back at the top of the card where he deserves to be.
But see, I'm with you because I was looked at the first thing as well, because when you looked at Raw, it was like Finn and Seth were the first two guys to really eye up the belt, and I was like, okay, we've got the potential here to set this up and literally do what we had a few years ago, where you had Finn versus Seth for the belt. The only problem is, where does that leave him in the Judgment Day? Because all of these guys are succeeding without belts, minus Rhea, and now you put a title on him, and is there going to be that descendancy in there, or what would work there? That's my only issue when it comes to Finn holding a belt with the Judgment Day.
Well, I think it creates more story. Like, I think Descent in Stables is always amazing storyline. It's always, I can't think of any time where there's been like Descent or like shenanigans going on within the group, or like rumors bubbling where it's been a bad storyline in Stables anyway. So I think if Finn does win, it makes natural sense to move the Judgment Day to SmackDown because obviously that's where Rhea mainly resides anyway, as SmackDown Women's Champion. It would make sense to move her there, have Roman be on Raw. It also gives some love back to Raw because obviously Roman's not been there for a long while. We can kind of see a lot of new matchups because Finn, anytime he was on SmackDown, he didn't really have any main rivalries or feuds going on. So I think it would be nice to see him, explore that new roster back again on SmackDown with potentially the big belt.
See, this is I'm gonna take what you said and break it up a bit because the fact that you said that Judgment Day could go to SmackDown if Finn was become champion as well, Rhea become champions, move Roman to Raw. Is Roman gonna work on Raw? Do you think as much as he does on SmackDown?
I
Miles,
mean,
what
I
do you think
think
of that? I'll go Keanu, then I'll
no,
say
go on.
Miles.
I mean, my
No,
question
go
is
on,
going to
Miles, go
be.
on.
My question is going to be like, because I can't think of anything at the moment. Is what do you two think in terms of like what could be the pitfalls there?
Oh, simple. You've ruined basically the fact that Roman's show is SmackDown. So he owns that show. And I feel like if you move him away, you move everything that he's built, everything that is done within the bloodline and stuff like that. And you kind of force new rivalries on Raw when really what we want is the internal rivalry within the bloodline. And I want it to stay on SmackDown. I feel like because Roman's been the champion on SmackDown, that's his brand. Make this belt, even though it's not technically exclusive to Raw at this moment in time, make it exclusive to Raw and hold Raw of a bit more value now.
Counter to your point about why you would about that. Obviously, or maybe I've read it wrong. You said he's countered SmackDown. He's conquered SmackDown already. If you've conquered it, what's the point of staying there? Why not move somewhere else and conquer elsewhere?
I hear it, but it's just one of the. It's a bit like Roman reminds me of when Cena was peak Cena. You couldn't really see him moving away from Monday Night Raw. It was always a case of Cena was always going to be the Raw staple piece. Even when they did the double turn on the draft, everyone knew when he was first drafted to SmackDown at the start of the show, he was always coming back to Raw some way, somehow. And for me, it would just seem weird that SmackDown for me it peaks when Roman's there. Like everything centers around Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. You move that to a 3 hour show, I don't think it's gonna hit as much as well. And that's why for me, like this belt has to stay on Monday Night Raw. But then I've got the issue with Seth because I want Seth to face Roman Reigns down the line. But for that to happen, Seth has to move to SmackDown for it to potentially happen as well.
Yeah, and also be a credible act at the moment. Like, sorry, like nothing Seth is doing at the moment is moving me in any way, shape, or form. Not like the kind of new heel, fresh after the Shield breaking up Seth. That Seth was glorious, Seth. Not this laughing weird. The clothes, the kind of like super expressive swag. I can deal with that as a character arc. But really make it like a Joker. Okay, he's trying to make it a Joker vibe with the laugh, but it doesn't work. He's not heelish enough. He's not like you don't hate him. You don't hate him like the Shield Seth of old. So until he changes a few things up, I don't want to see him face Roman. He's not a credible act to me.
I don't know. I feel like he's the only one that's credible. I think Seth is literally the only credible person that can face Roman Reigns at this moment in time. Like, I don't see anybody. Like I know we've talked about Jey Uso down the line, whatever, but I don't see anybody credible enough. But again, for that to happen, he has to move to SmackDown, and I think they've got themselves as much as they want to make this brand split as sector to Raw and SmackDown are separate entities now. It's going to be a problem if you want to do certain rivalries for Roman Reigns going down the line as well. What's your feeling, Keanu? Who's next for Roman then? If like we've got this belt, who could be next for Roman potentially?
Well, I'm thinking, okay, we've got Backlash coming up. Obviously, Roman's not scheduled for Backlash. We've got Night of Champions. As it is right now, he's not scheduled for Night of Champions. And then after that, we've got Money in the Bank. So the better question is even when is the next time we're even going to see Roman fight? Because I mean, if it's not Money in the Bank, then in reality, we might not see Roman until August for SummerSlam, because obviously he's not gonna. Nothing's been said about Night of Champions. Nothing's been said. I mean, maybe Night of Champions we might see him because obviously it's in Saudi, so they might pay for it. It is what it is. But it's a good question. I think we don't really know. I think we don't really know the answer to that question until after the draft, in my opinion. So I guess maybe we come back again. We do another one after the draft to kind of just review like how things are, the new landscape anyway. But as things are right now, it's like because we thought again it was going to be Cody. Obviously, they shifted that to Cody and Brock, and then Riddle's now apparently back, but Riddle's feuding with Solo, so we don't know what's going on with that. So no one seems to be in the picture for Roman as it is right now. So unless it's a new call up, unless it's somebody new, unless we wait till Money in the Bank and then that's the next feud. I mean, it's tough right now because, I mean, as we've said, we always say, Roman has generally beaten everybody who we could think that's a contender right now. That's in on both rosters. So unless somebody gets called up, I don't really see anybody that can get called up right now that could probably go straight into that picture. Anybody that WWE is even going to sign. It's a tough one right now. I think we're in quite a bit of limbo at this moment in time.
Do you know who it could be? And it comes to because of what happened on Raw itself. Because we saw the graphic where Seth just faced Omos and it came out of nowhere. And then Monday Night Raw had a bit more context where MVP kind of just came out and said, I lobbied for this particular match. I lobbied for Omos to be here. And potentially you could do that at Night of Champions. Yeah, it'll be like a throwaway match, but you could have MVP come out and essentially him and Paul Heyman be doing the promos and going back and forth where he says, I lobbied for Omos to face Roman Reigns. And then we got a match. It's a throwaway match to a point, but there's something there for him to have at Night of Champions.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think ultimately, Saudi seem to have a strong affinity for Omos. So obviously because he was on the card last year, like, listen, they're Homo sapiens. It is what it is. Like we can't.
I
We can't
told
blame
you
them for
guys,
what
I
they're.
told you guys, there's something about Omos. Like you guys weren't on board. I told you there's something about this
Listen,
guy.
I'm down with Omos. Like
Yeah, I don't
he's a
mind
big
it.
brother, man.
I don't mind
Yeah,
it. I don't
I
mind it.
like, bro. He's getting a
So it
lot of
make
people that like him, that are giving him praise from like the legends and stuff. There's something
Yeah.
about him.
Look, unfortunately, he got a lot of hate because people don't like seeing big guys plod around anymore. Like that's one thing
yeah.
fans aren't happy with. So he was very unfortunate to come in just as he looks and be judged immediately. And yes, his matches haven't been great, but they've just put this thing on him that's just like, yeah, I hated him from the beginning. He's never going to be anything. It's like, well, for a man his size, he may be the biggest WWE wrestler we've seen in a long, long time. To be getting the respect of the Undertaker and all these kind of people, clearly he can move for his size. So he's getting a lot of love from wrestlers. So he'll come good. Just let it take time.
Do you think the similar Keanu, like eventually he'll come good? I don't think he'll be winning a world title or anything, but I think there'll be just always interest with him. And if there's interest, that means you're on TV all the time.
Yeah, that's it. Like, like ultimately, like as Mar said, like he's a big brother. Like ultimately, when it comes to wrestling, these lot always have a thing for big guys. Like whether it's Andre, whether it's
Taker.
whether it's Taker, whether it's Big Show, like there's always affinity for big men in the wrestling ring. Like that is what it is. So whether it's a thing of like this match has been placed in there to where it's a decent-ish showing from like Omos, but the only way you can get to Roman versus Omos is if he actually beats Seth, which is an entirely different question because do we want him in that position where he's beating Seth? I don't think so. Especially, I mean, but then again, there's also the thing of I feel like I always overanalyze the whole thing of if you lost a match at a previous pay-per-view, you probably will win the one at the next one because he just lost at Mania. So is he then going to now win at Backlash? And I think if you beat if Omos beats Seth, then in terms of the momentum in regards to him wanting to push for the new heavyweight championship, that's not going to help him either. So we're kind of at a very weird crossroads with it, unless it somehow turns into some kind of DQ, and Omos just looks really really good. Like, I generally have no idea how they're gonna do this match. I'm very intrigued to see it because I think Seth is gonna get a good match out of most people, but it's definitely a very, very interesting situation.
Now, I'm with you guys, but I do want to move on to one guy who's slowly been doing his little singles run, and it's kind of intriguing. That's Solo Sikoa. A lot more action. I know, obviously, he's got his own personal feud with Riddle and stuff, but he's there. He's facing Rey Mysterio, opening shows, main eventing, getting victories and stuff. Are you guys on board the fact that the enforcer, who wasn't doing anything prior to WrestleMania, is now arguably the most active guy in the bloodline?
Yes. Easy answer. Yes. Because he's him. We've been said it. Me and Maz have said it on this podcast before. I'll look into the camera and say it. Solo Sikoa is him. Do not mess with this brother. Like, when I tell you,
that guy.
this is
He's
the
that guy.
future of the company. This is him. You see what he's on. Like, he's doing Umaga proud. Yeah, he's doing him proud. This man brought back the Samoan Spike, and he's killed everybody since. He's not to play with. Like this, yeah, that's it right there.
It's just that.
Like, listen, it's that right there, man. Listen, this is wrestling heritage right here, and he's doing everybody proud. Because whenever he wins his first belt, I will be there and I will be clapping the loudest because he deserves it. This man hasn't had one bad match. He's beaten legends on their first days. This is him, bro. When he overthrows Roman one day, it's gonna be amazing, and I'll be there on his side.
I was going to say, you talked about the belt, and I'll go to Miles on this. What would you say? Do you think he can dethrone potentially Gunther, or is there going to be an issue where Theory could potentially come to SmackDown, Solo stays on SmackDown, and he dethrones him, type of thing?
I can't lie, man. I've always liked long booking, yeah. And Roman has shown me how much I've liked it and missed it. Do these champions that we have to be dethroned? I like Gunther. I've loved Theory from day one. Solo is fantastic, but
Okay, so are you saying if his first belt was to come, it would be potentially a world title belt?
Maybe it could be, but it doesn't have to be in the near future at all. It could be a couple of years away. Like, I'm just not a fan of the belts being hopped around as they have been over the last decade. I'm not used to it. It's not for me. Tell a good story with a good champion, and you can, long this thing out. Gunther does not need to drop his belt for another year minimum, in my opinion. Theory, maybe he could drop it 6 months in 6 months' time as he's still a loser type guy and needs to work his way up. But all this hopping belts, I hated it from day one, man. Honestly, really, when you put a belt on someone, they should not only be allowed to tell a story till WrestleMania, depending on how close it is. They should also be possibly, if you told a good enough story, be able to carry it on to another WrestleMania and lose it there. Like, why can't? Oh.
Do you know what?
I agree. I think if go on.
No, you go. Then I'll go after.
No, listen, you said a hot take, so I have to stop.
Okay, I don't like Theory. I don't know if I'm liking Theory. Like,
okay, fair. I'll let you have that.
In what sense?
Blasphemous.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but in what sense?
The reaction that some people think he gets, personally, I don't think he gets that type of heat as people think. I don't really see him holding the belt as long as he can do. The only thing I can say for Theory that he brought a different level of credibility to an element of smartness was the fact that he took the Money in the Bank briefcase, realized it's not just an opportunity for a world title shot, but it's any title, and he cashed it in when he was meant to at the perfect time for the perfect belt. Outside of that, I'm just not seeing it as much as other people. Like I said, it could turn on me. Like, the Cena thing was cool, but afterwards, I feel like he's been a bit flat. Personally, post WrestleMania, I think Theory has been a little more flat than I would have expected.
I don't disagree with you on the fact of him being flat after Mania because I think that match. Let's be honest, that match wasn't good. It wasn't a good match.
Mm.
It was not a good match at all. And I will happily admit that I was very happy. I was very gassed to watch that match. It just was not good. I really thought Theory was going to show out, and it just didn't. Whether it was the fact that it was just ring fatigue from Cena or whatever it was, like it just didn't look like it worked for me. I disagree on you not being on Theory because Theory actually is that guy. He's not the guy, but he is one of the guys, and I think he actually has a lot of potential. Again, if they give him a bit more freedom to do it, actually do what he wants to do. I think he's still kind of building that credibility in the company. Obviously, the United States belt is not a small belt to hold. Like I think in the men's singles pecking order, I think it's probably the third biggest belt that the men could win. So it's a big thing for him to carry it. I just think I think because of how Mania was, I can understand why it seems like people it's kind of cooled down. But I think just give him a bit more time. Like I think the match between him, Bobby and Bronson Reed at Backlash, I think that's going to be a sensational match. Like that's it's not going to be Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus, but it's still going to be violence, and
See,
I'm looking forward to it.
see, this is my problem with that match because I know Theory will. I know we're going to do a backlash show later on, but I know Theory will win that match because the actual story of that match, unfortunately, is Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed, and he's put in there because he's the champion and he's in the mix because Bobby's been chasing him and stuff. But the real story in that triple threat is Bobby versus Bronson Reed. And that's my worry. The fact that the champion, for me personally, is not the main headline in a triple threat match for his belt.
I can understand that. Yeah, I can see that. So I think listen, we'll have to see how the match goes, isn't it? Like I mean I'm pretty sure we'll probably all say and still, but if there's a small possibility in which I mean funny if I don't even see the possibility in which he actually beats both of them. I feel like it could just be a thing of like the match just combusts, them two just run off somewhere, and then it's just like a 10 count, which would be terrible. And I think I would even start to agree with you even more. Like they're not booking him with the respect that he deserves.
Do you think, Maz, then, just because of what I'm saying, but I want to hear your view on this, could Theory be one of the people that could potentially move brands in either on Friday or on Raw?
What brand does he belong to?
Raw.
I mean, this brand split has just meant like, do you know what I mean? Everything has been muddled up for a while. So I know he's got a raw belt, but I can't lie. This brand split doesn't mean anything, in my opinion.
See,
Not the
this
way
is the
they've done
thing.
things.
It doesn't at the moment, but it's meant to. And they also have rumors about the pay-per-views becoming segregated again. So they're trying to
Yeah.
push it. Um, so if they do it correctly, would you prefer him to stay on Raw or go over to SmackDown?
Well, if he goes over to SmackDown, it means he's dropping the belt, right? He's losing the belt. Oh no.
Not necessarily.
Not
It could
necessarily,
just mean
because
that if
Oh yeah,
I would
because
say
that belt could
yeah,
switch.
because then whenever you see one of them ones switch, you always know at some point the other one is going, or they'll just do it in the same round.
Yeah, that's quite true. I can't lie with the way they've done things over the last year or so. I'm not really too concerned about where people go, so long as they're paired with people who they've not had much opportunity to wrestle, and people that could kind of beef up that kind of mid card side of things. So not fuss where it goes, so long as you attach the right pairs and threes of people in the right places. You know what I mean? For
yeah.
example, Bobby Lashley, him and Bobby, it's been done. Him and a couple others have been done. Bronson Reed, that's a person to throw in there. I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, but yeah, you can change things up.
I think yeah, I think you switch Gunther and Austin. Probably, I don't know if you leave Bobby on Raw, um, just to keep him away from Austin, or maybe yeah, you keep him on the. I think you keep him on Raw, but you move Bronson to SmackDown, so then Gunther could then have matches with potentially Bobby and also potentially with Bronson, or
Do you
Bronson
know
moves over, and then you have that singles match between Theory and Bronson.
one man I want to see, depending, I don't know where his health is right now, is AJ Styles versus Theory. I think that's one of them feuds that could work because of the styles and stuff. And I feel like that's one of them where you've got Styles who, again, like you'll know as well, Miles, from TNA, and then you've got his WWE run as well. You've got this upstart again with Theory. I feel like if you're gonna throw a fresh feud, something legitimately actually fresh, I think Theory versus Styles. Again, I don't know what Styles' health is like. That for me on paper seems like that is something that could potentially run for a bit as well.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love Styles. Like he's in like my top three, top five greatest wrestlers of all time. My absolute favorite. I love him. So yeah, obviously dependent on his health, he's 40 plus. I being such a fan of him, I noticed when he stopped doing certain moves once he got to certain ages. I was like, oh, AJ's gone. Like the AJ we knew type thing. The AJ that was at full health, full youth is gone. But in terms of on the mic stuff as well, yeah, that's a great pair. I can't lie. It's a great pair. AJ as a face is good. I always prefer AJ as a heel, but with his age and the way he's got his hair as well, I loved AJ with the short hair. That was peak AJ. That was six-sided ring AJ. That was
Nah,
450s.
him, Christian, and Tom Cole together when they did the TNA stuff, yeah, that was comedy AJ as well. Like
That's
he
the
was
AJ,
just being
man.
able to do it. But do you know you said something about 40, and it's just funny. I thought I'd bring this up. I did not know LA Knight was 40.
Yeah,
I,
that's a good point.
I
But
did
It's
my
not.
good.
but my thing is, how old did you not think this man was? This looks like a very big gentleman.
Very big
Like
human.
he's a very big human. Like, and you can look at his face. He's got wrinkles, bro. Like man's not, his thing ain't, you know what I mean, like moisturized and, you know, young face. Like the man is old, bro. Like,
That
don't get
man
me
there.
wrong. I didn't think like 40 is that's a very, very big man.
Keanu
But
just cussing out these wrestlers. The man, they're old, boy.
them man are old, bro. But listen, at the end of the day, I still want the best for LA Knight. Like
Yeah, he's
that money,
fantastic.
but that money in the bank, I still want that for him. Like, you know what I mean? But and the same. Listen, the same with AJ. AJ, like I watched a compilation the other day of, it was just him turning moves into the Styles Clash, and I'm like, this brother is insane. Like, I think there was the one. I think the one that vexed me. I think it was when he was feuding with Ricochet in the pandemic era, and like he bounced Ricochet off the rope and then caught him and then turned into discussion. I'm like, you lot, like, how we deserve to see this in front of people. Like, do you know how sick that was? I'm like, nah, I miss him as well, man. I need him back too. But yeah, that feud would be sensational if when he comes back.
Side note, I just don't like Ricochet. Like I can't lie. Like just
No, we're not doing that. No,
no, there's nothing there for me. I mean, don't get
no,
me
we're
wrong.
not
I don't
doing
like
that.
Braun Strowman
Nothing.
as well.
There's
You
nothing
said
there for
nothing,
you.
you know. Nah,
As in,
don't do that.
like, do you know what? You need a combination of promos and athletic ability and stuff like that. He's got the one side that's just nailed down. Everybody knows that. But nah, if I heard this guy on the mic, I'd be like, yo, nah, just it isn't for
No, don't
me.
get me
It's
wrong. I
just I
hear
believe.
you. I don't like anything he says. I never believe it. I never believe him.
So
But
Keanu, peak Ricochet or peak AJ?
Oh, that's no question.
that's not even difficult.
That's easy. That's
That's not
easy.
even like, I love Ricochet, but to
Yeah,
to
he's not that.
compare him to
He's not that.
Alan,
Alan
we're
Jones.
not comparing him to. Listen, this is a champion everywhere, bro. Like TNA, New Japan, like the man skipped NXT, probably had one of the best debuts ever just coming out at the Rumble, bro. Like, man
Yes,
said,
sir.
I am phenomenal. Are you mad? Nah. Listen,
Do you know?
this is an AJ Stan account. Let's not do
Full,
that.
full disclosure, I didn't think AJ would have as good of a run as he did in the WWE because he was a TNA guy. I thought, do
And
you know what?
that was the time when his people like him was coming in. That
Yeah,
was the time when, if you was at a different company and you came in, they were like, like, you wasn't made here, so we're just gonna make you, you know what I mean, it's not too deep, like, you're just doing whatever. But he came in and he was basically number one from the beginning. Like, I'm even now I'm thinking about. I need to go back and watch that match that one of the matches he had with Cena, man. Like it was insane what they were doing, and he was getting his moves off, bro. I'm thinking, wow, this is actually Alan from TNA,
Yes,
Alan
sir.
from New Japan. Like
The
this is
goat.
him, bro.
The
This
goat.
isn't nobody else. Like this is him. Like when the man says he's phenomenal, he's not lying. Like he's actually spitting truth in the booth.
Greatest of all time.
I'm
And
not
just
mad at you
quickly,
saying that.
nah, I just want to quickly do one more thing, and it's to do with what happened on Raw as well. And it was Damian Priest and Bad Bunny. They confirmed that that is going to be a street fight. Apparently, the rumor is Dominic's injured, which is why they
Oh
flipped the
damn.
entire script or something of that sort. And then you've also got Zelina and Rhea Ripley. Are they WWE nailing the international market by doing a Puerto Rico event? I think the main event's probably going to be Damian versus Bad Bunny, including Zelina in there. Is this like a perfect recipe for them to test the waters again with international flavors and stuff like that, and see what the reaction will be like?
God, Mouse.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned on another show. I love Bad Bunny. I think he's it. I think he's got the look. I think he's got the like. I don't know. I've not seen many like music stars come and just take to it like as if he's been wrestling for like forever. He's got a mad passion for it. He's like the top selling artist worldwide or whatever, and he's still jumping in the ring. I think he's got a fantastic look, fantastic swag. His kind of facials are great when it comes to beefing people and whatnot. Yeah, man, what a guy. So anything he does, I'm excited for. I think pairing him with Damian Priest is a good one as well because it's almost like a bit of a blood feud in the sense of raw. They're supposed to be boys or something, and I was like, sorry, bro, gotta punch you up, gotta punch your lights out. So I'm actually excited for this one. See what
Yeah.
Bad Bunny does. Definitely.
Do you know what? I said this. This is like the Damian Priest WrestleMania moment 1 month later.
And I love that for him. Like obviously, we had it at the 2 Manias ago. Him and Bunny against Miz and John Morrison. Obviously, like Damian Priest is a really good worker. He's gonna keep Bunny safe in there, as well as he's gonna make him look really, really good. So I think it's unfortunate that Dominic ain't gonna get that match. I think that would have been massive for him because I can imagine the arena when he comes out. Like it would have been that would have been like Cena coming out at one last stand. Like
Oh yeah.
that would have been it. Like they would have been on him, and it's unfortunate that he's not going to get that moment if he actually isn't definitely injured. As well as for Ray as well, because now we don't know what Ray's going to really do either. But it would have been nice to see that. But yeah, no, I think Damien deserves it. If it is indeed the main event, I think yeah he deserves that spot. It'll be a really really good one, and also Rhea and Zelina as well. Like those two have worked really really well in the past. So I think that one will be a decent match. I think Rio usually works really really well with women who are a lot smaller than her. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And yeah, WWE's been on the international market, man. This is what they do. Like, if Clash of the Castle is anything to show for it, it's like, I mean, obviously, if you don't we don't really look at Saudi. Like, Saudi's just over there, in it. Like, that's just what I mean. That's just an exhibition, whatever that is over there.
Now
But
I
when
think
you
they're
actually,
slowly making it more valued now. They slowly are, but now I hear it.
yeah, I guess like to me, whenever stuff happens at Saudi, I'm like, "Ugh, none of this is kayfabe. Like it's just like this is like when you go on 2K23 and you do my GM for yourself and then you book everything. Like that's what Saudi is to me. Like you buy all the legends, even though none of them can wrestle and they look like they're all grey. Like that's what Saudi show is. But in terms of like the other pay-per-views, obviously that Clash of the Castle being the most recent one, you see the appetite in which the international crowd has for, even when they went to Australia, like that show was like great and they've never been back there. Like obviously it's Australia, it's far, but even that show was a good show. I think it was like the Super Show, whatever it's called. But there's an appetite, man. Like this is what these lot do. So and this is what Triple H said he was going to do when he came back involved anyway. Like we always knew that the international market was where it was going to be. We know there's a new NXT Europe coming soon at some point. Listen, man, this is an empire here, bro. It ain't going nowhere.
I just want to wrap up. Before we wrap up, just want to get your guys' views on tonight's SmackDown. We got the big tag team WrestleMania rematch. You've heard Jay allude to it. He's dedicated to get to Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chiefs. Is this the best foreshadowing we can see for something bad to happen with the Bloodline going forward?
100%. And I actually think the Bloodline is not going to get drafted together. I think they're going to draft Roman and Solo together and draft the Usos to somewhere else. That's what I think.
I don't think so.
I think they
they'll be
lose the match.
drafted separately.
I think they lose the match, and Roman makes a call. Like, okay, Roman's been drafted already. Let's say Roman's been drafted already.
Get them out of
The
here.
match is obviously we know the match is going to be the main event. Roman is going to be drafted within the first hour. Or if maybe it opens, or maybe they don't get drafted. Oh yeah, actually yeah. So this is
They
it.
don't get drafted tonight.
Roman gets drafted for number one pick. Obviously, he'll go to wherever they go. Whoever gets the number one pick. Then it's Roman somehow appears and he's looking around like, hey, listen, y'all better win. Y'all better win because the consequences are bigger than what you think they are. And then main event happens, they lose. We just see Roman just scowling. It's like, okay, cool. Solo's been picked. We know where Solo is. Solo's with Roman. He's in the back. Boom. You know what I mean? He's in the back chilling. We have to then wait till Monday now. We get to the last pick. Well, maybe not the last pick or whatever the first pick is of Monday. Usos are going to the opposite of wherever Roman is. And then the breakdown happens. Then we're really cooking.
It won't happen because what we're leading to, in my opinion, is Roman Reigns, what he did in the beginning, which was punching up Jay. And then Jimmy was like, "This ain't you, man." And then Roman started fake crying and then banged up Jimmy as well. That's what we're leading towards.
Do you know what?
Why do you think that both can't happen?
I think WWE are actually going to stick to their edge now. I do think so. I think they'll stick to
That's the reason why.
No, I think maybe he could get beat up. Then it's like, go over there, bro. This is the last thing. This is the last thing you're gonna remember of me beating up both of you.
Do you know what?
And then you go over there in disgrace.
I'm down for both of them getting drafted on a separate night, but I'm gonna just disagree with Miles on this because Jimmy's like, and this sounds bad, the weak link in the Bloodline in terms of how he's portrayed. Roman's gonna beat up Jimmy first, then he's gonna get to Jay, and that's when we're gonna see the full explosion of the Bloodline. But yeah, today's gonna foreshadow something big, I reckon, going forward. But with that, we are going to wrap up today's episode of the Future Endeavours podcast. As always, if you're enjoying the content, you know what to do. Drop a like, share, subscribe, follow the social media platforms. And as always, love and peace, guys.